Okay, thank you for coming back. So I sort of threw my panel into a frenzy because I started with the wrong panel, but we'll see how to go around this. And trust me, I haven't touched wine or anything else, so all right. So who needs to introduce themselves? Patrick. Okay, so please just take a moment to introduce yourself properly. Yeah.
Once again, my name is Olugbenga Olabi, country manager for Dimension Data Business in Nigeria. It's interesting times, really. You know, I look forward to a very productive conversation on this.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Ndegwa. I lead the enterprise sales team for CCOM. I was a VSAT guy. A geo VSAT guy. I mean, my first receive-only service I installed many years ago, I think in 97, give or take. But yeah, exciting times. Looking forward to the disruption.
You can hear me now. Hello, I'm Heinrich Notnagel. I didn't exactly want to give away my age, but I started the satellite industry in 1990. So if Harry wouldn't mind me sharing a story, it's going to take a short time.
Go ahead.
But I think it's relevant. In 1990, I think I'm pretty sure most of the geostationary satellites in space were spin stabilized. Now, I don't know if any of you know that time when satellites were spin stabilized. The whole satellite spin in space. Later on, they made them 3-axis stabilized and they spin a wheel inside the satellite. Anyhow, I come about from that time. And then we were trying to build a small geostationary satellite for South Africa, and the size of that satellite was about the size of a OneWeb satellite or one of the Empower satellites. And then came the early 90s, and we were all very excited about this new technology, almost exactly like today. And then came, the question then was not, what is this going to do for us? The question was just, is this going to give us communication? Because voice was the only form of communication at the time. Then we went on to VSATs, and VSATs came, and it was data, and satellite was the solution. There was no other solution. It was just satellite. The question today is OneWeb or the low Earth orbit satellite going to be a primary solution, a solution, the solution? Then we moved on to the late 90s and it became a solution. I am pretty sure that LEO is already there, will follow the same path of development. Then in the early 2000s, latency in data became a big problem, and the geo guys tried to address that, as somebody said earlier. And then, then geo satellites looked like they were going to become obsolete because of the latency and the large amounts of data and the cost of data and the arrival of fiber. And the geo satellite guys moved on to HTS satellites, trying to make themselves relevant. And they were pretty good at that, but eventually they ran out of steam. Now, geostationary satellites has a place in the communication mix. And I'm pretty sure this little bit of experience I share with you for the last 30 years is going to be the same for low Earth orbit satellites. Only, I think, where this one took 30 years, that one will take 15 years. It'll face challenges like geos face challenges, and it'll face obsolescence like geo face obsolescence, but find a way to survive. That's my story.
Yeah, my name is Kayode Adejumo from MTN Nigeria. I'm not a satellite person. I'm just a connectivity person. But I have passion for the unconnected because I know what it means not to be connected. I believe everybody deserves connectivity and everybody deserves the opportunity of a modern connected life. And that's what drives me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask you guys the same question I asked the previous panel around disruption. What's your perspective on Leo? Is Leo going to be a disruptor? And how do you see that disruption?
Certainly, I will respond in very concise terms. And I say this because, the satellite technology as we know it is not, experiencing this advancement just by itself. So there are other contemporaneous, advances like data center, like SD-WAN, which makes, this at the center of the conversation now as we speak. So if I say a little about SD-WAN, a lot of enterprise organizations are moving away from traditional MPLS services. The SD-WAN is giving them sensitivity, latency, low latency security as well, bundled in the same technology. So when you tend to deploy these services using the geosynchronous satellites, you don't get the level of service that you get with LEO. So when you put a LEO service on an SD-WAN network fabric, what you get is amazing. You have low latency, of course. You have higher availability, and I was excited, when I heard the previous panelist, spoke about reliability. Several hops, down the line before you get to the end user, in terms of the terrestrial and the traditional type connectivity providers. So yes, quality of experience, reliability, low latency, it's the way to go. So it's certainly a disruptor at the right price point.
I think we have discussed on this point enough since morning. We have seen the whys of disruption, and I'll borrow what Richard said. It is already disrupting. It's not gonna disrupt, it is already disrupting. So maybe a small story of mine. When I started in telecom industry almost a decade back, I was hired as a telco people would know UNR manager for broadband business in a state in one of the states in India. And that point of time, what I was supposed to do is to sell 512 kbps on the copper broadband plans. That was almost a decade back, and here I am is trying to sell Leo with 195 Mbps speed. So, in just a decade, only 10 years, look at how the industry as a whole has changed. Like I said in the morning, one man suddenly gets up and say, I'll get this company out of the bankruptcy, and puts his whole $1 billion. Of course, there was some vision. Of course, there is something in it that why people like him are getting into this industry and making a difference. So we would be foolish if we believe that there can be any other reason of not having this disruption. So absolutely, it is already there, and we have to accept it that it is there. Yeah.
Yep. I think for me, I agree 100%. This is a disruptor, and having been in the enterprise sector for a long time, I think we are hearing the right words. Okay. I think in the previous one we talked about reliability. Reliability is what our customers want, not the residential guys, the enterprise guys. So when you talk about QoS, service credits for outages and stuff like that, that's what our customers want. So while that was available with the geo infrastructure, geo solution, now that we have LEO, we are now adding that aspect of lower latency, which is again critical for our enterprise customers. So, in my view, we are on this journey. We've already started, and my panelists have said it's already happening. I think it's time for us to embrace it, because then it increases our ability, to provide services for our customers, even in remote areas, at a reliable level. And I think when I mentioned in the morning, we provide connectivity as a product, but essentially we're trying to enable our customers work or do something, solve their problems. So we provide services beyond connectivity. This is a platform that will allow us to do that for the customers who have not been able to reach reliably and quickly.
Maybe because I'm in this environment for a long time, I absolutely agree it's a disruptor. But for all the reasons it's been called a disruptor, I experience it more as an enabler. Some of us which are around for a long time, I think Hannes explained as well. He said, we don't have a solution for customers which has a need. In that sense, I see this as an enabler and an evolution which takes us to the next step of, indeed, as OneWeb said, reaching those people which we could otherwise not have reached. In that sense, it is definitely a disruptor.
Yeah, I agree 100%. At least I have like 3 criteria for my reasons: capacity, reliability. What have we heard? The only part I've not heard is the cost. For me, in the business of bringing service to the rural area, is very key when you think about these services, because rural is no longer 2G. Rural is now data. So you want to bring a cost-effective solution to such an environment, and I agree with almost everything I've heard today. It's going to be a disruptor.
We haven't had the sample from
Rakesh. I just like to put a guideline between disruptor and enabler. When M-Pesa came in, I will say it was disruptor. Kodak knew about digital camera and the digital way of taking pictures 10 years before it was known to us. They were hiding it because they thought it's better to continue selling those films. And finally it became a disruptor, and the company has to go to bankruptcy. Yes, these technologies can be disruptor for few, but I'm happy that all the domain which will get disrupted is none of them are here. Mobile companies will use as an enabler. Enterprise market will use as an enabler. For sure is a disruptor for the domain, but none of us will feel the impact immediate. As Karishan said, for time being, I call it complementary. Maybe next generation, we don't know, because things will change a lot. Let's look at, because I had done my enterprise company before, so I can tell you that most of the customers used to say, I need a primary link from you. Can you suggest me where I buy the secondary link? Because as per my company policy, I need to buy 2 links separate from different routes and nothing in common. Even if you say I'll give you 99.9, the customer still buy the second link. And obviously it comes from your competition who just gets a cakewalk inside. Which means all along that we built our infrastructure, we never built an alternative option for our customers so that we don't allow our competition to come in. But today you have an option where primary belongs to you, secondary belongs to you. You can choose which one is primary, which one is secondary. Whether it will be a disruptor for us, no, it is going to enable a lot into the markets. I was discussing with my colleague, we have a few links, maybe couple of mag link in Uganda. customer has taken 2 big links, 3 big links from all the service providers, and we still have challenge during Christmas time that all the links go down. The only link works is that VSAT, which we told them, can you keep it for time being? Imagine that how much business enablement is going to work for us, especially in enterprise market. Let's look at the example of an NGO. And as Lindsay said, we don't sell internet. And I think this is a very great statement for us to adapt, that whom are we competing with? That NGO in the rural, all they need is the cloud connectivity. The moment you give that enablement, they hardly cares who else gives how many megabit plus minus, because their full focus will be on the application and they want the consistency and reliability of that application. I just thought I should confirm that there's a guideline between disruption and enablement, and I believe for sure for some of the sectors it'll be disruptor. Luckily, not for this team of people that we are together today.
Thank you, Rakesh. I want to latch on something you just mentioned, and that's cloud. How does Leo and cloud behave together?
Of course, there are people from enterprise. They will give us more. All along, what we had learned earlier, even building an ISP and enterprise market, we used to call it a server room. Server room was like a storeroom. You empty it, put a lot of server racks there, and run the air conditioner, and you say, I'm running a server room. And then the only challenge used to be security aspects, which came later part of internet evolution. And then the availability, and then those standards and things, and then the data centers and stuff. All this evolution has taken us that you actually don't need any server closer to you because you're already connected on a very low latency network. Why are you keeping out 10 milliseconds? If it is within 200 milliseconds, the response time is very similar. Caching and other things start working, optimization and many other things. The only thing that cloud enablement does not work with geo because of the latency and the expense for it. Yeah. But if cloud comes within 100 milliseconds, because now all the cloud providers are coming closer to, they're already in South Africa, they are coming to Kenya, they're already in Nigeria. So imagine that we are not going to take our customer to Europe anymore the way we think. That means everything will be localized. Content will start coming localized. I'm sure Chinese will also bring the content to Africa. Juma? Yeah, just tell Chinese they should bring the content to Eritrea. If that happens, that will be another good enablement of the cloud that is happening. This becomes another enablement from Leo's side for those customers who are totally dependent on this. Leo is great help, going to be a great help for them as well.
Anybody who wants to check that? Okay, I could just add to that. So when you talk about, and that's why we're excited about, Leo coming on the block. I mentioned earlier that data center services are, becoming prevalent. A lot of investors are putting money into tier 3, tier 4 facility. With higher availability, of course. And they need a connection into those facilities that, that is consistent with the level of availability they have achieved with their tier 3 and tier 4 facilities. So if you have a connectivity into those facilities, so data centers are, the warehouses for servers. And those servers are what we, the end users, refer to as cloud. So to you, it's cloud. To me, hosting a facility, I could touch the servers. So the cloud facilities are only as good as the connectivity that gets you into them. So what Leo is bringing to the table is, and you have the likes of Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, spending billions of dollars on their on cloud. For you to enjoy the cloud services, you need very low latency. Historically, we had teleports offering 850 milliseconds. Later on, 450 milliseconds, 650. But now we can do 100. So with 100, you don't even see, once you click, it opens. So, and that's the power that Leo brings to the table. So you have reliability and you have low latency at the same time. And this altogether gives you the quality of experience at the end user, from the end user perspective. And another thing I'll take from what Rakesh said was, so we have IXPN, that's exchange companies coming down to Africa. There's Hurricane Electric, DCIX, these guys are coming, and then you can begin to exchange traffic locally in Africa. So you don't need to go to the internet, UK, and then come back to, because that's what happens essentially. If you pick your phone, try to do anything, it goes to the UK and then comes back. So you have latency. But now what you get is, when you hit anything here, it goes to the exchange point, hits the cloud servers, and come back to you. So with Leo, the round trip from the moment you hit the application to the moment it returns with the information you need, you have maybe about 150 milliseconds. Whereas before now, you could sum up to about 800 milliseconds. So it's better quality of experience overall.
I just have a very small point to make. I think we could not present that segment to this audience. OneWeb has already have a partnership with AWS, and we are building the solution for cloud, basically, for all our partners. So it's already there in our radar, and we are doing it. And precisely for the reason what Rakesh and my friend said, that it is really aiding this whole growth of low latency, because that is where the disruption part will lie, because it opens up the different opportunity and these different sectors what we are looking for. So yes, it's Leo and cloud is now going hand in hand, basically.
It's like a marriage.
It is it's inevitable, rather. It's like that.
Yeah, thanks. I think maybe just to echo, I think what my fellow panelists have said. I think there's one use case that I think is also very unique to what is happening in Kenya. So of course we're talking about the AWS and Microsoft, etc. The big cloud hyperscalers. Exactly. Now, if you do recall, we also do have a lot of cloud providers in Kenya that are Kenyan-owned businesses that actually set up in local data centers, and they provide services as like SIP or call centers, or even just a local mail hosting service. Okay, and their target is for smaller SMEs. All right, so their customers are essentially local customers within Kenya. And at the moment, of course, they're probably focused on sitting in major urban centers, major metros, because those have access to, 3G, 5G, or fiber. Now, what happens to their customers if they are completely out of reach for those key technologies? So with Leo now, they will be able to now expand their local customers to areas that were previously unserved, and those people will still have the same quality of service that their counterparts in the metros are having. So I think that goes towards the enabling part of Leo itself, because now, again, so the data still stays locally, but the fact that you can get from wherever you are to 100 milliseconds or less into your local cloud platform, then you are able to access the services as quickly as anyone else within other metros as well. So that's an advantage as well. Yeah.
I don't have anything much to add to what was said. I think everything is very correct, and that's the wonderful part about this. I just wonder where OneWeb will find all the bandwidth for this. That's number one. And number two, I wonder if they can take the message back to OneWeb to ask them when we're going to have the cloud on the satellite.
Wow. Lindsay, you'll answer that later. Okay, back to you, Enrique. So you've seen the growth of satellite up to today, right? What does the future look like for satellite?
You know, when geo started reaching the end of its relevance, let's put it like that, we thought, like many, that it's just not going to make it. And when the HTS satellites brought the price down, we saw some quirk up in excitement, and then it's sort of, like you said, 2-3 years ago, nobody was talking about satellites. So this is a significant step up. But I think the more important thing is that there's such a demand for bandwidth in the world. They'll find a way to use it. Like with geo satellites, amongst other, when it was thought this thing is going to die, they came up with acceleration. They came up with spoofing. They came up with all sorts of fancy ideas. They came up with an LTE interface on the terminal, which I think you guys are going to do next. Is start putting the interfaces on the CPEs, because that saves another lot of time and it saves bandwidth. But in short, Harry, I just cannot see that satellite will ever be obsolete. They will find a way, and there's such a huge demand for bandwidth. I cannot see that these guys will have enough bandwidth for the next 4 years. I just cannot see it. Geo satellites today, many of them are full. How come? I think O3B, if I'm not mistaken, O3B is full. So I think the future is bright. I think this is a wonderful addition to the satellite industry, and it's a wonderful new direction for the satellite industry.
No, I fully agree. Couple of days back, we were discussing, there was a project from Google called Loom. Not sure how many people know. They thought to put the balloon just couple of here. But then it was not a commercial launch. It was a project just to test. Somebody even used the word saying this is the only way they don't pay income tax, but they burn the money just in the name of invention, innovation. But this is commercial, which means, which was that movie, the Jurassic Park. There was a favorite dialogue in that movie that nature will find its own way. I think it applies to a lot of things even in our life, that when you go for a commercial exercise, there was OneWeb which happened to be finding a financial trouble to become a full commercial company, and they find it, and then there are 5-9 more guys are going to launch the Leo today. It is obviously that the first company who started will always find some lead, because their business model is better than others, because it's B2B enabler. There will be a lot of stakeholders who will say, let's work together to make it success. There is no one single person who decides what to do with it. And I'm sure in generation 2 and all, which means many more people who are coming behind us, all these innovation and creating the demand. Let's imagine that before M-Pesa, there were 50,000 bank accounts in Kenya. And then M-Pesa comes and does the disruption. Today, there are tens of million people almost holding a bank account, which is in shape of M-Pesa. So before that, if you would have asked the Buckleys, but why are you not opening the branch? They will say there's no business. This is how we had thought. Even today, we feel that we have covered the whole. Possibly not. There is more demand going to be, and the whole life is going to become part of the connectivity as a foundation. And I believe that is where we are heading, and satellite will never go out of our life, and it will be growing and more and more.
Please go.
Okay, just to offer some more insights, I think the scientists call it singularity point. As long as the world subsists, there will be development. A couple of weeks or a few weeks ago, the director of technology, NVIDIA, they make chipsets. They just innovated a chipset that could potentially collapse. So for supercomputers, so you can potentially converge about 16 mega computers into a chipset that is just a few of these phones put together, and you can hold it in your hands. So it's let's talk about fiber technology as well. There is what they call colored SFP, which multiplexes the optical signal several times. So before now, we used to know the dark fiber delivering 10 gig. But with the colored SFP, you can deliver 100 gigs. So there is advancement in fiber optic technology as well. In the same vein, VSAT, satellite as we know it, will continue to evolve. Like she said, about a decade ago, we were selling 32 kilobits, 64 kilobits, 128 kilobits. So from Nigerian perspective, I had a customer who was, and I keep referring to that story now, who subscribed to 512 kilobits. When it coughs, the whole organization moves. but in that, if you think about it, we are talking about 195 megs. 512 to 195, and this is just about a decade ago. So that gives you an idea of what we can potentially think about. Innovations will continue to happen, and then maybe I'll close with this. We have Moore's law that said every, I think, 5 years, technology capacity doubles and the price halves. But I think innovation has, rendered that law obsolete, because we have million, we increase capacities million folds, and then the cost comes down significantly as well. So the future is bright, as long as we don't hit the singularity point. Thank you.
I think I'll take it as a very individual view of mine. What I, as an individual, would like to see this industry doing, and I don't know whether it is OneWeb or anybody else will do it. I, as an individual, would want to see if all the defense forces can talk to each other. When aviation, the Air Force guys can talk to the Navy guys, and the Navy guys can talk to the Army guys when there is a war. Because we are living in a difficult times. The time's not gonna be easier from here on, from the geopolitical perspective. So we as nation, we as governments, we as industry need to really think a little beyond what we are doing right now. That would be my first choice, that how all these combined defense services can talk to each other. That's the point number one. Point number two, as a personal wish of mine, is the real-time surgery. For that, you need a 10 millisecond of a latency or a 5 millisecond of a latency. Don't know what, and that is the disruption what we should look for. Real-time surgery is the need of the hour, because we don't want to lose a life in a village because there is no doctor, and it is difficult to produce that many doctors who can go and stay in villages. So these are the alternative routes we need to, and the only alternative can be through a technology. So these are the two very personal choices and wishes I have that this industry can give me. Thank you.
Wow, that's very powerful, really. And it makes a lot of sense. I want to open this up to the audience. Anybody with a question, an addition, a concern?
So, good evening once again. I can see we've been really listening so much. Now, back then, when I started working, I was selling alcohol, and someone will ask you, Juma, leave Whitecap and take Tusker, and you'll ask why. So my training will be do a role play back in the office. So we'll say, I'll take you as my customer, and I have to act like I'm selling it to you, and have to convince you to buy. This is where my question comes in. Let's go to a role play situation, because we've really talked a lot of stuff. The conversation here is, for those of us who don't know, we have really remote places here in Kenya. And as probably a project sponsor, I come in and I tell you that I want to sponsor 10 schools in Turkana County, the remotest place in Turkana County, from the traditional teaching methods of the chalk and blackboard to a whole digital school environment. Having one web in this picture and a whole discussion from now where you're saying we need to supply computers, we need to get connectivity, we need to bring one web, we need to bring CDNs, we need to cloud connectivity. Can we have a short brief on how now we're going to connect all these partners from OneWeb to Safaricom to a computer into a learning environment that's workable, that can be presented to a project owner?
So you okay, if I got it right, you are what you are looking is whether we as OneWeb is ready to sponsor such kind of project. Is that the question?
No,
if I've got it right?
No.
Okay, sorry.
It is a role play model where we are saying that we have one web service. We now the partnership with AWS, we understand what it does. In a practical conversation environment where you're on a table talking to a project sponsor, that in this case I'm bringing OneWeb to give me this kind of connectivity in that remote place, because we cannot be doing cables, of course, and pulling fiber all the way to the schools. That's number one, because of pricing and the complexities around it. Okay. And then secondly, there is the part of the content where we are going to map OneWeb to AWS, or we're going to map OneWeb to a CDN, a content delivery network, either through a school project. So what is the end-to-end from point A? Which partner am I going to bring in? Point B, I'm going to have OneWeb services as a satellite provider. Point 3, I'm going to have which content on the school programs, and deliver a project to a customer in the remote area.
Okay,
yes,
I'll try
from
answering
a role play
this.
perspective. Yeah.
Yes. So you're looking for a complete solution.
Yes, an end-to-end solution.
You're
in this
looking
case,
for a
like a
complete
role play you're
solution.
saying. Yeah.
Yes. So, okay, so if you have to go and give this in, let's say, Kenya or Nigeria or Uganda, iSAT is your partner, first of all. You have to go to iSAT, for example, our distribution partner. He will come with this, kind of a requirement. And we are building this whole backend network of this whole AWS and CDN. Yes, these are the things we are already started working, that we can give you the complete solution, end-to-end managed solution. And that's what we keep saying. We are a B2B and manage end-to-end service provider. So once we understand the use cases, once we understand the requirement that the end user is looking for, we have all the capabilities to build these solutions. So your point of touch point would be the distribution partner of OneWeb in the country you are looking for. So that's the point number one. Point number two, do you have to talk to multiple partners for these things? No, you don't have to, because if we say that there is a solution to a school, that there is a CDN kind of a services you are looking for, we would be managing for you. And when I say we would be, the OneWeb platform is going to manage for you through our distribution partner. So we will never come, the end customer, we will not go. OneWeb will not go to the last mile. OneWeb will not connect to the customer directly. We are very clear about this fact. We will always follow the model of our distribution partnership, but we will build all the solution around it. I hope I answered your question. Maybe Rakesh, you would want to add to it.
So you were very specific to SME or enterprise kind of solution, which is end-to-end, which means you need connectivity, you need cloud, and then you need application, and then you need support. And it may not end to a school, it can also go to many others. So if you're working with airlines, you probably will need airline. One of the key aspects that I had mentioned, the role of this event was we should know each other who does what. There are many people, like Tata does amazing job in enterprise. You guys can talk to each other. You want to go through us, I'll be very happy that we facilitate that. if you want connectivity where it is not there in the bush, Safaricom is one of the enabler. When we are bringing the OneWeb as a connectivity to enable the last mile, last hop, and the AWS as a cloud, yes, we have some applications that also we can assist. We are doing a project in a school in Tanzania through a partner, and they were looking for very similar, how do we automate a school when there is no examiners. They wanted to automate the whole examination of the school so that firstly there is no differentiation between one child to another, because that's what we human normally do. So they wanted to see how automation helps them. We brought all the partners whom we knew, and then we working together for a school in Moshi, for example. It's just an example I'm saying. But for sure, we'll welcome whatever the things come on here. I'm sure in our ecosystem that we have built together, we'll find the answer between ourselves. But I think Nishta mentioned as a complete solution till cloud connectivity, yes, is a single solution that we'll be able to offer.
Okay, another question or addition? You guys have become too cold, eh?
So I think also, if I try to understand his question, is he plays in the SME market and he sees this disruptor as pushing small ISPs out of the market, because what's going to happen is iSAT Africa, and then you're going to people like Safaricom are going to proposition to the customers that now we have fiber connectivity here, and we can also provide satellite connectivity through iSAT Africa. And so the small players in between ISPs are now pushed out, because now Safaricom or whoever is big enough, Airtel, can now be able to bulldoze and push them away. I think to your comfort, I think what needs to happen is now you need to build, just like you were alluding to, you need to provide a managed solution to your customer. So instead of just playing in the connectivity business or in fragmented positions, providing hardware, providing software, providing whatnot, what needs to happen, especially to small ISPs, is to understand their customers 360 and then proposition a proper end-to-end solution. So you act like a middleman between all the providers. If they need some cloud connectivity, you talk to AWS, you talk to Google. If they need some specific application, whatever Citrix, then you're able to orchestrate this end-to-end so that you become to the go-to person for all the entire solution value chain for the customer. Secondly, I was sitting here and wondering, because a lot of noise is being made about content being moved to the eyeballs, closer to the eyeballs and closer to the end users. How does this, because right now a lot of telcos, especially playing in the wholesale market, their pie is being eaten by OTTs, investing heavily in undersea cables and also terrestrial cables, and pushing a lot of content to closer to eyeballs. The best stations we have today, these BTSs today, are mini data centers, and people connect directly. And what we've noticed is content is local. I mean, you might want to watch international content, but a lot of people, 60-70% of the people, want to be entertained or want to talk to people that are closer to them. How does this sit with geo and LEO satellites that we are pushing into the market?
Okay. I think it's LEO is going to enable it, just for want of a better word for it. It's going to enable it because the closer it comes to the end user, the better the quality of experience. And even for the international content providers, they are beginning to deploy CDNs in African data centers. We've seen that trend. We are seeing it more and more in Nigeria. Google invested in some very high capacity cage boxes that they've dropped in, specific data centers. So those cache, they update their content. So the international content are pushed overnight via the submarine cables. But essentially, about 90% of what you need, the content you need, is already sitting close to you in one of the closed data centers. And now this is where Leo comes into play. So instead of having a round trip, going all the way 100 milliseconds, backhaul to telehouse, come back before, you are getting something like, with the synchronous satellites, you are getting something in the regions of 800 milliseconds. But with content close to the users, you have just 100 milliseconds and maybe 20 to account for the terrestrial fiber latency. So it's perfect solution for distributed CDNs, especially when they are closer to the end users. Does that?
Okay, I can see people are cold, and we're sitting between them and dinner. So I want to just bring this to an end. So I'll go for your parting shot, starting with you, Henrik.
I think this is a wonderful time for satellite. I think it is a wonderful time for communication. And I think that LEO satellites makes a very nice contribution to the overall need for data communication.
Yeah, for me, I think, I said before, I think my view is that from an enterprise perspective, this will be a good enabler for us to be able to provide better services to the people who previously were not able to reach. So looking forward to some exciting things going forward.
I would like to say that I'm feeling very humble today, that the kind of acceptance you all have given to us as a OneWeber and for the technology, and I'm looking forward for the support of this group, because in our, like I was saying in the morning as well, that this is the group which is going to make a difference in their part of the business in this value chain. So yes, exciting times, but this exciting times would not be possible unless and until we all come together. It is a value chain, it is an entire ecosystem that has to kick in. So thank you so much.
So thank you. I think it's been a very insightful forum. I've learned a lot from this program, as it were. Specifically, coming down here, I had some expectations. I think 50% of the expectation have been met. I've had my mind disabused by the capability of the OneWeb technology. I think it fits the bill, for the quality experience, that enterprise users require. In Nigeria, just for context, Starlink is the rave of the moment. End users are deploying Starlink, but that's, I will call it B2C. Yeah, so they are deploying Starlink. I got a couple of units, just to try to see, how it fits into the enterprise space. It didn't really have that quality of experience that we required. So coming here, especially when Linksy was, making his presentation, the QoS marking, the, DivServ, and everything, it's fantastic. So I'm looking forward to the collaboration between us and iSAT, and, it's exciting things we can achieve together. Thank you.
Before I put some comments, I just like to thank, though my colleague also will do that part. Though whatever we have discussed, I think we have to do this as a continuous exercise. Coming week, we'll be in touch with you. We just love to see how we can start playing a role. We all know that in some markets, the services are available before September and the remaining part of Africa in December, which means some of the equipments we have to be ready. We will work together, see type approval in some territories. So wherever you feel that we need to, we have a customer who we don't have any option yes, we are happy to come along and hold the hand and see how we can do the proof of concept as well. So faster we work, as I said, opportunity always has a limited window. We really have to do that. So we'll be in touch with you, all of you, but feel free if there's anything pressing that comes in between and that we need to work immediately. Otherwise, thank you. But before I give my mic back, I'd like to welcome our guest. Do you want to take that? No, it's okay. Just introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Christian Itundi. I'm coming from Cameroon. I'm the director of business unit Fix in Cameroon Telecommunications.
Okay, thank you, and sorry for being so late. My name is Stéphane Bia. I am the manager of Naivasha. Naivasha is the technical support of Cameroon Telecommunication, and we are very happy to be here even though we are late.
Sorry for being late. I'm Joseph Sicham. I'm in charge of VSAT service at the teleport in Camtel in Cameroon. We came together with Stefan Bia. Thank you.
Most welcome.
Yeah, just to be with my friends from Cameroon, they started yesterday. Some of you guys probably know that the immigration website was hacked for last few days and the visa was delayed. The remaining Ethiopian Airlines has done to them. But I still like to really give a clap to them that they still wanted to come to attend this show. So thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. We will make sure that we'll spend enough time with you to give everything that we have gained in since morning, and we will make sure that we bore you with all that as well. So thank you.
Your closing remarks on the topic. You're not getting away.
Great time ahead. Something that I found, which I was not able to get in the closed room, that we have expressed ourselves. And some of us have done extra, some of people have kept their feelings, and I love to see that everything is done in near future so that we see how we can keep my word called enabler is our role, and I love to see how we can be there. Technologies will always be there, but it is our willingness to put the business together, and we are together. We call it in Swahili pamoja. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rakesh. A big round of applause to these panelists. Thank you so much. You are please excused. All of you. You know.